Chicago River. It's that sort of pinkish colored building on the left side of the river with the windows and the balconies to it. That building is called the Fulton House. It was built in 1898. And when it was originally built, it didn't have any of those windows or balconies to it. It just looked like a giant pink box. And that's because the Fulton House was being used as a giant refrigerator. So you all might be aware, Chicago is pretty famous for a good long time for the Chicago stockyards, our meat packing industry on the south side of the city. Henry Ford had his assembly lines. The Chicago stockyards had their disassembly lines, where they would pack barges filled with meat into cold storage freezers like the Fulton House here before they would get shipped all around the world. Chicago was known as the hog butcher to the world. But in the 1970s, that meat packing industry goes away, and they convert the Fulton House into condos. But here's something gross about that building. When they were cutting through those 3-foot thick walls to create the windows and balconies, they discovered that the walls had been crammed full of matted horsehair and cork. I told you it was gross. That's what they had to use for insulation back then. But now, on the right side of the river, you can see that bridge that I was talking about earlier, permanently stuck in that up position, because again, it's a bridge that we don't use anymore. But with it, you get a glimpse of what one of those giant cement blocks looks like that is normally hidden in the riverbank. So you can see just how big that cement block needs to be in order to lift up the entirety of that bridge. But now, on the left side of the river, on the other side of Fulton House, you can see this sort of triangle-shaped sloping building. These are called the River Cottages. They were designed by a guy named Harry Weese in 1988. And Harry Weese was a big sailor. So he gave it these triangle shapes to look like sails, as well as those circular windows to look like portholes. He wanted to give the building a sort of nautical vibe to it. But Harry Weese was viewed as a little bit crazy for building the river cottages. But it's not because of the style. It's actually because he was building on the north branch of the Chicago River. And historically, the north branch had been the stinky, smelly, industrial part of the river. So who would ever want to live there? But Harry gets the last laugh. A couple of those cottages just recently sold for over $2 million. And now you can rent kayaks on the north branch of the river. Something that nobody thought you would ever want to be doing in the 1980s. But now, just as a heads up, I've been talking here for a little bit, so I'm actually going to jump off the mic for just a couple minutes as our captain performs a U-turn to get us going down the south branch of the river. But now's a great time, if you find your drink is a little bit empty or maybe your bladder is a little bit full, to head to the bar or the bathrooms downstairs. And again, I'll be back on the mic when we get a little closer to that Kinzie Street Bridge that we just passed under.
지금 라이브 스트리밍 중이에요. 라이브 스트리밍 중이에요. 전부 다 들어와 있어. 근데 나중에 볼 수 있는 거지.
아빠 포켓몬고.
어떠십니까?
나 얼굴이 부끄러워.
좋습니까?
이거 뺏어줄까?
까미 아빠 저녁이 뺏어준다고요?
야!
안 돼요.
아빠 유튜브.
터닝. 볼트 터닝 한다.
아빠 빨리 유튜브.
볼트 터닝.
아빠 지금 여기 튜브 있으면 빨리 해야겠는데.
자, 이따가 돌아가는 영상은 다시 한번 찍도록 하겠습니다.